Marfoogle TV live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam McKay Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We're going to talk about it a lot tonight, and we're also going to cover, again, the thumb. We're going to actually go in and we're going to look at the vessel finder. We're going to see what is actually happening off of the West Coast, off of Washington, off of LA. We're going to show you what we are finding, and then, of course, what I have found out through a couple of friends who just drove by today. I am going to be going down to the port, and I'll see for myself, but the problem is everybody is debating what it's supposed to look like and what it's not supposed to look like. From what I have seen so far, it does not look at all like anything I've ever seen in my life. There is now a debate. It is now publicized, but the reason why this is important is if nothing is coming in, that means nothing is going to be stocked after a certain period of time. They pre-bought things, so we'll talk about that. First, though, the conflict in Ukraine, the president is straight up, the vice president is straight up saying that it's not going to end anytime soon. Now, there's a caveat to this, how they take things into context. He's essentially saying that it's not going to end anytime soon, right? But also basically says, he has hopes for the peace talks. He's, very hopeful that something will work out, but it is Putin and it is Zelensky. So as far as that goes, it says it's hard to say confident. He's optimistic, and it says they will have to take the final step. That essentially we can't do anything about it until they really come to the table. So given that they just signed this mineral deal, that was another step that had to happen if that was even at all going to go forward. I think that now we've got skin in the game, and at least this new administration now has skin in the game. So this is something that people really need to pay attention to, because this leaves way more room for this to escalate. It leaves more room for one of the sides or one of the shadowy groups to do something absolutely horrible to the other and trigger them to be basically put in a spot where they have to go to war. So, the more time that this stays out in a full-on war mode, the more chances and the more time given that could start a much bigger war. And we're talking about a war with Russia and NATO, and of course with all of Europe. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But again, there's a lot of stuff today. We're going to go into it. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? Adam McKay Marf, and let's get moving on. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so we have the Ukraine mineral deal might help the U.S. break China's monopoly. Dex, do you want to go over the details of that?
Well, yeah, we get a little bit more insight into the deal. Obviously, from this author's perspective, they're discussing how great it can be as far as negotiating with Russia. But at the end of the day, I think the important part is what does it mean to us and to the potential, the financial portions of this deal. And, basically they're establishing a priority for America to participate in the development of their mineral wealth, something like 7% of Europe's titanium, and um, a big chunk of additional metals that are coming out of there. I think there's some 55 minerals and metals that are available. And we're basically going to get, a big, large chunk of that revenue that comes out of it. But it also means we have to invest. And it also means that if we send weapons, those weapons count towards that investment, which was also interesting to know. So we can actually send them weapons now. And if we spend the money, we're not just giving it away as taxpayer. We're able to apply that dollar amount towards the investment in the payback from these minerals that are coming in. So on one hand, that sounds interesting. Now, the real question is a lot of the maps that they use to sort of speculate how much minerals are available here and there are very outdated, and there needs to be a lot more geological updates. The existing mines aren't in play. If the mine already exists, it's not part of the program. It's only new mining operations. And some have even speculated that a lot of the wealth from those minerals may actually be in the occupied territory by Russia. So if that doesn't change, or if it turns out that's where most of the minerals are, then the amount of money that we may be able to find there by mining or get paid back from these mining operations may not be as significant. Of course, that just could be a little bit of hyperbole from the anti-Trump position that seems to come out of these articles. But nonetheless, this happens at a really good time because we're not getting any minerals from China, and we're very dependent on them, especially for the military, for healthcare, and for lots of other products. Technology products all require a lot of these special minerals, magnetic type minerals, etc., that are just we don't have them here. We get them all from China.
Yeah, and if a lot of this is in the place where now Russia has control over, I mean that might have been another MO of why to take it in the first place, because we would all like to think that all of our governments and countries just really, really care about their people, but I mean likely story is that they probably don't. Everybody has, of course, said that Russia wants those areas back because of those are the Russian-speaking areas, right? And that those are their people, and that was their land historically. I would say if you found out that you had a little plot and you gave it to your neighbor, or you had a conflict, you gave it to your neighbor, and then you found out that there was gold on it, you'd be like, yeah, no, that was my plot. I never wanted to give it away. But again, if these minerals are in that part, would that also give us a motivation to help Ukraine basically take it back? Would that mean that the U.S. would get involved and try to take it back with Ukraine? I don't know. The optics of, by the way, this article about this, this picture, where is it right here? This picture of them sitting there, it's like, it really makes me wonder, like, who is in the background? I know there's organizers and consultants and people everywhere. Like, why do this? Is this so they could have a private conversation? Is this for the optics of having a picture with them in this room, sitting on two chairs face to face? Was this our president's idea? Was this like, how he does business? Or is this their idea? Like, why?
It was a third chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I said there was a third chair. They originally started with 3. Macron was there, and
that's
Trump
right.
Trump sort of patted him on the shoulder and said, "I got this. Thank you, but have a nice day."
Oh, that's right. I forgot that's this. Okay, well, he's changed out of his green outfit, by the way. He's looking a little bit more dapper with his
funeral attire.
Oh gosh, that's right. Oh, that's
he still wears his military fatigues, just in black color.
Oh, that's pretty. I'm sorry, you couldn't wear a suit to a funeral. And he's wearing these boots that look like he's ready to work at Wendy's. Sorry, but I'm like, what the heck? You can't wear some nice shoes. I mean, that's in respect of somebody who perished. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And by the way, everybody talked about the whole blue suit thing, and everybody was asked to have black. I mean, That was a perfect example of the media, how they frame things. You zoom out, you see probably every 4 or 5 black suits, you saw somebody in a blue suit. I mean, if you looked out in the audience, it was black and blue. Which again, but they frame it with the only image that shows him in blue in all black. But you go one row back and there's 3 people sitting here, 2 people sitting there with blue suits. It's just how they frame and use out of context.
Biden had on a dark blue. Biden was wearing dark blue.
Yep, that's right. But have you seen a single article about that? No.
No, just the day of. Just they needed something to whine about on a Sunday.
And then Parrish, thank you so much for subscribing. And Darren, thank you for subscribing. S&P erases all Liberation Day losses as Beijing bends knee moles of Fenny offer. So here's the other side of this coin, right? So first of all, they have painted the picture that China, that one of the two are lying. We did a show on this the other day, like which side is lying? On the morning, I think it was April 27, 26, something like that. Essentially, he said that they had been in talks with China and that they were trying to work out some sort of deal. Well, China publicly then said to their people, to the Global Times, China Daily, all these places, Zenwen, he did this announcement. He said, no, we're not working. Nobody is working with the USA. There are no trade talks. Well, everybody knows that China lies, and I really do think that there's something to this because Xi, in front of his people, cannot bow down to the U.S. So there's some signs, as there are some things that are there that are essentially saying that China is kind of giving in on some areas, at least to soften the blow, and they are dropping a couple of their requirements, but they're doing it silently and quietly, and then not talking about it on any Chinese news because they don't want to let their people know. At least that's how I'm taking what they're saying. But again, U.S. equity markets extended gains this morning following a report that the Wall Street Journal that Beijing is considering ways to address the Trump administration's gripes over China's role in the trade. Basically, China says, Wang Zhendong said basically, well, what do you want us to do, right? And so despite all the legacy media's claims that no talks were underway, WSJ reports that Chinese leader Xi Jinping's security czar, Wang Zhendong, in recent days has been inquiring about what the team wants them to do about it. In a visible shift in tone Friday, China's Commerce Ministry said that it was Wang starting talks to the U.S. to halt a trade war, while expressing Beijing's wish for the Trump administration to show sincerity to talk. Do you notice how they put that in there so that they're putting it on us? This is a way of arguing where they're making us the bad guy. Like, well, it's because they're not being sincere that we wouldn't talk. So it would be like a win in an argument sense of term. Like if then he goes, well, I am sincerely trying to talk, then they can say, well, now that you're sincere, now we're willing to talk. So they don't look like they lost the argument, and they made them probably say something. It shows power over the argument. Previously, the ministry had demanded that Washington slash its steep tariffs on China first as a condition for negotiations. Well, what did our president say to that? No. Dex, I mean, this looks like it's starting to move in the right direction, right?
No, look, exactly to your point about quietly, China has quietly started to exempt some U.S. goods from the tariffs. About 40 billion worth of imports, or about 24% of the Chinese imports from the U.S. Those exemptions could cover a big chunk. I mean, literally 24%. So they're not talking about it, but they're doing it. And they're, of course, the speculation is China's likely trying to mitigate the damage to its own economy because, it is hurting them just as much as it's about to hurt us. But they are giving in, but they won't give in publicly.
Nope, which makes me believe that morning when all of the media says, well, they said you're lying. And of course, legacy media loves to be able to say, well, he's lying. He's not talking to anybody. He said that he couldn't, and I bet you it was a situation where if they told him, if you tell anybody that we're doing deals with you, then all the deal's off. Like, we can't lose face. They probably had some sort of regular conversation. Like, And they probably even had a laughing conversation the way that I've seen Trump deal with people. And he said, okay. So when they did that meeting, he goes, well, I can't tell you exactly who it was. It made him look like he was lying. I do think that this is happening because right now I think that they are getting to the point where they're in a corner. But I also think that this could be a situation where all of a sudden you have everything looking like it's going to fix itself. And are they plotting something else? Right? Just like in Japan, where they had peace talks, they had an ambassador in the U.S. for peace talks when they struck, Pearl Harbor. So, and that was because we did an oil embargo on Japan, and that basically screwed them. They had 2 years of reserves left at that point, and it turned the corner on them. Publicly facing in a culture like that, they'll say, yeah, let's do peace talks, but let's plan how to do this meanwhile. Right? And they'll do it at the same time. The element of surprise, it's the art of war. So I don't know. You could take this either way. You could say that China is starting to buckle, or you could look at it and say they're trying to keep us happy while something is being planned or stall off whatever they can and make some money while doing it. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, the whole anything. I mean, like, I can't imagine that's a huge portion of their GDP, right? Like they don't sit over there and go, oh my gosh, 25% of our, entire economy is made up of selling this stuff. So what's the advantage to that country from losing the revenue if they just said, we'll shut that down. We'll make sure it doesn't happen. So it really begs the question, why do they do it? And, when you look at the fact that they look at us as an enemy, and you look at the fact of the numbers of what that action that they take causes, like hundreds of thousands of deaths, from our population, it really begs that question. Like, is it really that profitable to them? I mean, they're at the front line. They're not like at the cartel line where it's been marked up 3 times, right? And they're not at the border crossing line or the retailer on the street here where it's marked up and marked up. It's stuff's still pretty cheap, but they're not making bank. I mean, like they make bank selling Nikes, right? They make bank building iPhones, and cars and everything else. So I think it begs the question, if that's the biggest stick right now, like, why wouldn't they just bend on that one of all things? Like, say, okay, fine, shut it down 100%.
Yeah, and I don't think we're a lot of the items that come out of this. We're not going to know the full story until much later because of how sensitive these talks are and everything that's happening. We're not going to get the full story, so it's kind of like we just have to hang out. We just have to basically sit back and watch. Grab your popcorn because it's getting wild, and we're going to talk about the ports. I mean, as of right now, all of these different companies bought 7 weeks beforehand, and they bought a ton of stuff to try to get through whatever the tariffs brought, right? Well, if those containers, even if those were showing up, you would think that a lot of that would still be there. But from what I've seen, a lot of those have already gone to the stores, and they're probably storing them on site. Where's the backup for that? Basant said that we have about 7 weeks left before that stuff dries up. But what is going to dry up? And the more that people talk about it, the more people panic, and the more other people say, well, I'm going to go buy my stuff. And then that makes somebody else go, oh my gosh, I need to go buy stuff. And then everybody starts buying stuff, and then everything's off the shelves when all of the stuff that they're buying is stuff that we don't have to worry about getting provided from China. Like, a lot of things are going to stop from China. But that doesn't mean that the things that we get from France or from Canada or from Mexico, those aren't going to dry up. So you don't need to panic buy that stuff, right? So I see in the near future, if this continues to go, I believe there's going to be less argument about the politicization of the ports. It's going to be, what items do you need to figure out what you need before this all happens, right? And are those items things you can live without? Otherwise, I think we'll be fine through most of this. I'm worried about the farther it goes, then it hurts the economies of both companies or countries. Same thing, though. And China ends up pulling something way, way bigger. I see also on the outside, they're connecting with all of their different allies. All of our adversaries are all buzzing right now. Everything is happening right now. Our military groups, military soldiers, the people in our Fugel fam that are active duty right now say that they have been busier than they've ever been. Everybody's just going everywhere right now. So by all appearances, it looks like we're about to start a war. And maybe that's what it takes for a war to be stopped. I sure hope so, because the closer it gets, the more I hope that all of it goes away. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Again, all of you know what this is, but for those of you who don't, it's a device that will get you home to your family after multiple EMP strikes. Just to simplify, it grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second so it doesn't fry your car. There's, of course, devices for your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, pretty much anything that runs. You want to have one of these on it. And they're priced to the point where you can afford to get it for this item, that item, that item. So again, it is a very, very smart thing to do. This is the same company that's outfitting agencies like DHS and DOD and the DEMSO team. So go check it out. You get $50 off from us, and then you get, again, another discount for the last couple days of that Liberty sale. So again, make sure to go check that out while you can. It helps support independent media at the same time as getting you a discount and getting you prepared for anything that might come your way. marfugglenews.com/EMP. All right. And then going back into it, South Korea Navy stages a two-fleet, two-sea exercise as North Korea flexes their new warship. We covered 2 days ago. North Korea actually came out with a new massive warship, and they showed pictures with Kim and his daughter. Essentially, supposedly they were watching the missile launches. And part of me always wonders, too, like the stuff that's coming out of North Korea, could those all just be straight up AI pictures and half of it's for propaganda? I don't know. But one thing that we do know is that they are doing these massive exercises in South Korea. The South Korean Navy concluded a 4-day maritime exercise designed to bolster combat readiness and uplift the will to fight for victory. And it said the drills held April 28th through Thursday took place in the East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan, and in the East China Sea. Approximately 20 warships and 10 aircraft were involved, according to the South Korean news. They said that it basically had realistic training in anti-ship, anti-submarine, and anti-aircraft warfare, as well as responses to drone threats and maritime interdiction. Again, with these drills being held, we're going to end up seeing the response and some sort of, clapback from North Korea. But again, I don't worry about what's being said today. I worry about the stuff that's been happening over the last month with North and South Korea and where are they actually at. We're not going to find out until the second it happens, and, probably much later, too. Just because of how the previous cycles, even we found out 4 hours after they started the martial law. So by the time it gets going, it will probably be something that involves the U.S. And then, Dex, talk about the secret CIA files.
Okay, wow. So, look, secret CIA files that allegedly expose the location of 3 alien bases, and 2 of them are on Earth. So coming out of a congressional UFO hearing, you kind of roll my eyes when I hear about these congressional UFO hearings, because I just get the sense that they're, just playing a part for us, and it's not really the truth. But anyway, the top scientists and Pentagon insiders claim that the U.S. government has been hiding proof of alien life. And while the officials continue to deny encounters and mysterious aerial phenomenon, a resurfaced CIA document suggests the governments may have identified extraterrestrial beings decades ago, back in the 70s and 80s. The CIA conducted experiments with individuals who claimed they perceived information about distant objects. So they're basically saying that there's an alleged alien base that's located in Alaska. There's another one in South America or Africa, and there's one on Titan, which is Saturn's largest moon. So that's that's what they're feeding us right now. Getting ready for the beaming of the blue.
Yeah. Well, what's going on here? Yeah. So, and as far as beams of blue, right? Everybody has expected for years that we're going to see some sort of 3 satellite projected image in the sky of Jesus, or an alien is going to come down and tell us all that, what's going to save the earth is that we all put our money into one currency, the XRP, that some sort of magical thing will happen, right? And that we should all listen to our W and E&O, right? So again, but with this, I think it's a distraction. I think half of these are. And then, because what will happen? In a couple weeks, we'll have no more than we have. Just like when they said that they were going to do disclosure, then they handed us a huge paperweight of redacted black boxes. And it was through a period of time where there was a ton of strife happening around the world. There was geopolitics happening in all these different countries. There were regime changes. There were all of these things. As long as they can keep the majority of people focused on other stuff. And by the way, I believe there's stuff up there way before, even in the time frame when I was way younger, when we don't know if back then, I highly doubt that the U.S. had the kind of stuff they had today. But the stuff I've seen is wild. I believe that there's things up there I cannot explain. And I mean, I've seen some really weird stuff. But the stuff that comes out of the U.S. government, why? Why do they need to tell us this? Why does the CIA need to release this stuff? Or even if it's from a FOIA, I'm like, who did the FOIA? What's the actual motivation for this? And then when they come out with this, I don't know. There's a small 1% part of all of us that even the most skeptical people will look at this and go, well, what if, right? They'll go, what if this is actually true and there are alien bases? What if one alien base is under the water, that it's at the bottom of the ocean, like the abyss, right? I don't know. But one thing I do know is as this is happening, we have multiple wars all at the kicking off point. We have, of course, countries getting regime changed and being taken over. I mean, just yesterday, in 24 hours of this, you had Israel strike the capital of Syria. I mean, it's just nuts. What's going on right now? They don't want the regular average person going to, 9 to 5 working. They don't want them spending any time looking into this stuff and then getting into it and then digging. The more that you dig, the more that you realize you'll end up somewhere like here where you're digging every day, and the more and more you dig, the more and more you find, and then you can never go back. Even though The Matrix is a fictional movie, right? Even though there's the people that believe we are really in a matrix, but even if we were just in the philosophical kind of matrix, which I think we are. I mean, they've set up all of these things, the mind control that you don't even know, the consumerism, everything about the U.S. and the messaging and the propaganda and everything else. It trains people to be a certain way. If you don't believe that, then you probably haven't been around the last 5 years. I mean, look at how it has trained people to think this way or that way. In all of human history, it took like 5 or 6 years to really just train people to completely divide. That shows me that there was some third party that interjected in this, put their strings on almost everything, and then altered the way that humans think. Because 10, 15 years ago, we wouldn't be arguing about every last thing that this president did just because of it's him. And if he says an issue like, I think dogs should have fur, if the right person says that, the other person's going to go say, well, I'm going to have a bald dog because I'm not having a furry dog. I hate furry dogs. I'm going to shave my dog. Again, any issue that somebody says now, if they're on a certain side, if they fully believe that and they're rocking it, the other side is saying the opposite. And this is all part of this training, right? We've all been trained to think like this. And that's why the really, really, the smartest people in the world are not looking at this like a left and right thing. They're realizing, and as much as it's hard to, because you see the people on the other side doing stuff you just cannot even fathom, think about why you think that and why it's so opposite. It's something that has been put into us. This alien stuff, If they're doing this kind of stuff, then there is something way bigger going on in the background. But that's just my opinion. These kind of stories, they come and they go, and there's never any updates on them. They're usually some sort of psyop to distract you from the daily dirt. But what is the daily dirt? That's what I focus on. I try to focus on, like, what is that the distraction from? Not just going, that's a distraction. What is it distracting us from? And then Rubio reveals obscure Biden administration office kept disinfo dossier on the president. I absolutely, I believe that happened too, because there were quotes by some of his assistants a few years ago that kind of hinted towards something like that. Dex, as far as a dossier on disinfo,
the headline is the president, but it's really not just that. He said we had enough office in the Department of State whose job it was to censor Americans. He said, that they basically they had dossiers on Americans serving as what they quote unquote called vectors of disinformation. So he said he was semi-joking, not joking as if it's not true, but sort of said, there's at least one person at this table today who has a dossier in that building. And I'm not going to name their name out publicly, but I'll give them a copy of it when we're at this meeting. But he goes, just think about like that. Like the Department of State of the United States had set up an office to monitor the social media posts and commentary of American citizens to identify them as vectors of disinformation. He then went on to say, we know that the best way to combat disinformation is freedom of speech and transparency. So, it's sort of telling us what we know, but it's also kind of refreshing when you do hear sort of the inside baseball. Like somebody's there, they've been in, they went and they looked and they said, look, this was happening. This is the department that he gutted just like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So Dex, this is something to bring up. So this happened to us. This happened to us and many others in our niche. If you talked about certain things, you got put down, which is why I really hope that people question if there's channels that are getting just absolutely huge, can talk about absolutely anything, do not get suspended, do not get hurt, are just allowed to flourish. I would, 1, look into their background, 2, figure out why they can say what they can say. Some, maybe they have a multi-channel network that can protect them. People assume, oh, maybe, YouTube's laxed up. No, they haven't. Why did this happen? When we looked at Grok, a description of us, I have never had a Wall Street Journal article about how we did this and did this and this and that. But we did this thing back on the old version of Grok. Was it Grok or ChatGPT? It was ChatGPT, wasn't it?
It was ChatGPT.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it said that basically we were all sorts of things that we weren't, that, that it has been done this and this. And what did you do? You said, like, can you give me some sources on why that is? And
it made up sources. It gave us titles and
headlines
and sources like, Wall Street Journal or some insert, whatever you want, Reuters, whoever.
Specific.
But when you went
dates.
to look, none of it was there. The specific dates too. Titles, dates said this is what they said about Adam. This is what they said about Marfoogle. None of it existed. It
didn't exist, and we still have screenshots of all of that, right? And so when that went into play, and we're like, well, what is this basing its information off of, though? Because if it's not basing it off of public information, where was it scraping that information from? Think about it. Where was that info from? Because because those articles don't exist, but it was almost like it was told that you need to back up your sources. Like if you've been given this directive on this certain person or a group or anything like that, then you've got to back it up and you got to go 100% with it, because that's what it did. I mean, it was like, what? These don't exist. But then ChatGPT didn't realize like the next part, like, sources, and then just made up some. The newest version doesn't do that. It gives an accurate description. Like we talk about current events, this and this and that. The old one, it had so much very specific stuff to us, but it wasn't based on like Reddits or this or that. It wasn't based on like comments. It wasn't based on other YouTube. It was literally like an opinion about us. And it wasn't like they just made up something like, oh, they talk about swimming leagues or whatever. It was talking specifically about what we talk about, but it had all this information that was, I'm assuming, on the back end. They scrape on the back end too. So when you think about that, think about this dossier and think about that. It's like all of these different groups that just disappeared. Think about how the search engines changed. I talked about this yesterday. You used to be able to type in any, I have a couple of my other friends that are YouTubers. I type in the very specific title of their show. They'll text me, oh, I just did a show called this, this, and this. I can search it exactly how it is on Google. It will not go to that show. It will not show me in the first 40 pages. Now, I did SEO sales. Like I worked with a really good SEO company, and search engine optimization is essentially having, say, if there's a dentist in Seattle, you want, if somebody types in, dentist Seattle, if you're a dentist, you want to be that number one spot because the top 3 are the ones that everybody's going to pick. Nobody goes past that first page. Almost nobody. And if you're past 3 pages, so if I called the dentist and I said, hey, your dentist office is 40 pages in the results because you have no online presence, no one's going to find you online. You would help that company tie in with other websites, do things to get it to basically number one page, or in top spot would be the best thing. If somebody says Bellevue Dentist or Seattle Dentist, you want to be that top one. That I've no idea how that works now, because with this new search engine, it's off. It's weird. I'm sure there's ways to do it. Probably requires just paying way more money. I mean, it was $2,000 a month to do this, right? But with that being said, that algorithm, everything that's about it, it's all gone. They have now censored this with the search engine optimization. That engine used to be incredible. Now they have people show up 40 pages down. Instead of us, they show BBC, CNN, Forbes, this and this and that. That's not an accurate search. That's not even a relevant search. And there's no setting to actually search it and to get that relevancy. I mean, it borderlines illegal. I don't know how this is even possible. But yeah, so this I 1,000% believe, and I just wonder like how this even happened. And have these new platforms, have they reversed that? Right? I don't think so. So when will that happen? I hope that if Rubio's serious, that he ends up putting something in where they have to reverse that, or let people know when they had this on them. I think it's really disturbing. And then big balls. DOGE team sits down with wide-ranging interview, and again, this guy made a lot of headlines because of his nickname. He was part of the DOGE team, and he end up getting let go at first because it caused such a ruckus, but then they were like, hey, we need to hire this guy back on. He was one of the young people that helped DOGE, one of the computer geniuses that went in and found all of this crazy stuff. Dex, do you want to talk about, what the big takeaways were?
Well, yeah. So they had a sit down with Jesse Waters in his show, and Elon was there, and a bunch of other members from the DOGE team were there, including the big balls. But the interesting things that came out of it, one of the new things, there was apparently a $4 billion fund in the Department of Education that was labeled for the CV, and it had no oversight. Like if you work there, you could just draw down on that fund, and you didn't have to have receipts. You didn't have to have any requirements. And it turned out when they looked at what they were paying for, they were renting Caesar's Palace for parties. They were renting out stadiums, and there's really just absolutely nothing $4 billion fund. They found another one at the U.S. Institute of Peace, which, given the name, you'd think it would be peaceful. Not only did they find like firearms there, but they also found a $100,000 contract to a former Taliban member for quote unquote generic services. No description of work, just gave him 130 grand. That amongst many other things. So this was kind of the wrap up. If you haven't heard, like Elon's out, not out yet, but he'll be out in a few days. I think it's 130 days. So we're probably like 102 or 103 days, 104 days into the presidency now. I don't remember. So he's only allowed to have that position for 130 days. So he's kind of winding out. He's actually out of the White House now. I think he's back in, back in Texas, still working for DOGE, still, helping, but not in that official full-time capacity in DC. Just because of the type of role he was given, there's a requirement. There's only so many days he's allowed to do it. So, but the DOGE team goes on. So this is kind of like his, I'm on the way out. Let's have a good sit down for primetime television. And they were going over a handful of things they found. So, and then of course, Big Balls came up, who was there, and he talked quite a bit too. But apparently, they went over the reason why he got his name. So,
and they still have not been able to get into Social Security, correct? They're still waiting for I believe that the president is waiting on a court decision to allow them into Social Security. I could be wrong, but
yeah, and I thought I heard something that it was one of the courts had found in their favor. I don't know if that gave them the full green light yet, or if they're still waiting on that ruling. But apparently, for those of you who want to know his name, the reason why he named himself that, he just thought it would be funny on LinkedIn because everybody's like uptight and stuffy. So he's like, nobody uses a name like this for their LinkedIn profile. So he thought,
that's a Reddit name, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So he has, as just being the person he is, I'm going to put that as my name on LinkedIn. And ever since then, it became his name. I thought it could have been better. Like, his college buddies, saw him naked or something. But yeah, no, it's just a LinkedIn joke.
Well, we did have a friend named Titus, and you could probably guess what people called him. It had something to do with a very large animal and his name. Matt OB Set Free, thank you so much for subscribing. And Maya, thank you so much for subscribing as well. Hostile Hermit, 8 minutes ago, just subscribed. And Have Faith 71113, thank you for subscribing as well. Layla Lily, thank you for subscribing. Thank you, I appreciate that. And the Signkeeper, thank you for being a member for 6 months. Yeah, these people are so full of crap. I mean, it's just the bureaucracy that has destroyed the country. It's insane. But I also see on the other side that the same system that, this versus that, this aisle versus that aisle, it's like the folks on both sides are just so freaking corrupt. That's why I wish people would smarten up and really look above that. This should be a different argument besides this side versus that side. It should be us versus corruption, not the other way around.
There's a couple other stats that I think they said, Adam, real quick, was that when the country was founded, it was only like 4 agencies. Now there's like 400 or something like that agencies now that are, all have access to funds that can spend. And then the other thing was that usually what they see in these younger agencies versus the older agencies is as the fraud starts, it's usually small, right? It's like they'll do a little here, they'll do a little there. But the more they do it, the more they realize nobody's giving them any oversight. And if there's no consequences to the action, the fraud grows bigger and bigger till you get to like, the Department of Education level where you got a $4 billion line item that you're just drawing down money on for, parties and literally renting out entire stadiums to throw parties. Like that's just unheard of, and that's just, and nobody's holding them accountable.
Yeah, if any city council did that, like when there is oversight, a city council goes out to a fancy dinner, like just a regular dinner with like 10 people. And they're like, you bought a glass of wine? I mean, that gets picked out. And like, this is city money. But then, of course, when the country does these things, it's like, oh, well, yeah, well, a stadium? I mean, what? There was 100 of us. Like, what are we going to do? Rent like a small room or something? No, come on. We had to go with Safeco Field. Now, we're going to go into the cargo vessels here. Again, we're going to talk about this because there is a big debate about this. It has picked up steam over 4 or 5 days. I told you guys about this right away. This is something that if this is what's happening and if this is what China's saying, then of course this is going to happen. There's even more news that happened in the last 24 hours about, Temu just stopped shipping completely to the U.S. I'm sure that won't affect most of you, but some of you are like, hey, now your stuff will not come. That's insane. I mean, there's a lot of things that are just going to stop happening if this continues on. We'll talk about that here in a second. But first, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out Jace if you haven't already. If you have food and water down, those are the two things you should have first. Hands down, have food lined up for any disaster. More so, hurricanes, fires, earthquakes, these kind of things. The majority of America has 3 days of food in their fridge. Get that first. Water is definitely important. We're not saying have a reservoir and dig your own well. We're just saying have extra water on hand. You should have 3 months of water, but do whatever you can in your own capacity. After that, go get yourself some antibiotics. This is a great service. We recommend it because it is very easy. You talk to a board-certified doctor on a quick telehealth appointment through your cell phone from the comfort of your couch. I mean, it's really easy. You can also use your tablet or your computer, and you can get a Jace case. The Jace case has all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics in it. Again, that has all of the common ones you're going to get prescribed. Plus, you can add on things. So, say if you want an emergency inhaler, an albuterol inhaler, the doctor's right there. He's a board-certified doctor. You can go, okay, we'll throw one of those in there too. You can even get the stuff that Joe Rogan was taking, and CNN made fun of him for it. So again, this is a really, really easy service, and it will solve that problem. So if the hospitals aren't available, or if the roads are down, if the power's down, the pharmacy's down, there's a cyber attack, or there's a physical storm, North Carolina, California, freaking Hawaii, all of these things that have happened, people think they won't happen to us. Oh, how could it happen in our neighborhood? Well, it always does, and it will. It's Murphy's Law. Go over and check this out, marfooglenews.com/Jace, and make sure to use the code MARF. You're helping out our independent channel, and you are, of course, getting a savings at the same time. All right, and then we'll go over those ships here in a second. Bali, I'll quickly talk about this because we have a video over on news about this. The entire island cut off from everything. Power went out, blackout style. Dex, do you want to pop in on this?
Well, yeah, like this is in Higher Island. It's they are billing it up as, it's scary that people didn't have power and they're going to go 3 days without it. And that's the worst part. And yeah, that's a big deal. It certainly is. Like going without power for even a full day certainly can lead to a lot of uneasiness, especially when you're trying to get food. If you don't have, 3 days of food and you're going to go without it for 3 days because you can't even get to a store or buy anything, all the power's out. Yeah, very difficult thing. But the real question is what happened and how did it happen? And I think that's more scary than the incident itself. I mean, sure, that the incident is very important to the people that are there, but the fact that they're suggesting this was an underlying power cable and they're not explaining yet what happened to that power cable. And we know that we have seen these cuts happen from Europe to Taiwan and all other points, that this could very well be another incident like that. And is it something that was done intentionally? Was an anchor dragged? Was an underwater line cutter used? Did somebody sabotage this, or is it just don't worry about it, it's just a normal event, it happens from time to time? I really think there's something to it.
And then where was the power coming from? Did they have one main line into it? Where did it come from? Was there other things in there that connects to this whole line of islands, right? So like is West Tenggara and Lombok and all of this, because this is underneath all of this. This goes up into Cambodia and Bangladesh and Vietnam. And then, of course, China's up there, right? So was this something where it has other things that went out? Was there other things in those cables that they were looking to target? Was there something that's held in Bali that they were trying to knock the power off for? I mean, this could be super crazy. This could be some sort of multi-billion-dollar robbery of some sort of thing that's in Bali. Heck, this could be a private group that cut it so they could cut power to the island to take something. You never know. But as far as this goes, to cut the submarine cables, that's not something everybody can do. And as far as the power goes out, one day in New York changed history in one area of New York. You had, when the power went out, what was it, 70s or 80s? It was a famous day. All the businesses, a lot of the businesses that didn't have insurance on their places, they all got trashed. They all got looted. And most of those businesses never came back. The whole strip that these things were on, none of them came back. It was just like, it changed that part of the city. That was just a big outage like this. But this is the entire island. Like when we had 7 days of no power, it was hell on earth. I will tell you that. And what's crazy is you went down 2 miles, you had power. You went up the street like 6 blocks. Unfortunately, there was no gas station up there, but all the houses were on. I'm like, we're right here, 7 days without power. And they basically said that they were just so busy doing it that it took 7 days to get our power back on. By day 3, it was horrendous. We are preppers, so we had a lot of stuff that people don't. We have generators. We have that kind of stuff. And it was still a pain in the ass. I can only imagine in a place like Bali, they say most people do not have generators. The only place that was really never lost power was their airport. And then a lot of the places, the hospital was able to keep their generator going. But again, even one of the other hospitals said that they had issues. They were not able to keep up for the whole 3 days, if that's what it goes. So they're still without power for my knowledge. And that's an entire island of Bali. There's tons of tourists there. I thought, what about the crime? People could rob tourists. People could loot whatever touristy attractions are there. The banks. I mean, there's no power. And the city markets that you get, trinkets, or the farmers markets, all the stuff that's really tightly packed in. It is, from pictures there, it looks really cool, but it is unbelievable kind of layout. I mean, every 1 inch you have another vendor for, a mile and a half. So all of that's out, pitch black. They're running whatever generators they can to keep it going, but that's crazy. The world implications, though, nobody cares about this stuff. I'm telling you, I guarantee you, 90% of people see that and they're like, oh, cool. As long as it's not them, they don't care. If somebody dies down the street, they'll, oh, that's too bad. But it's not them. If their brother dies, they care. Or if it happens to them, it does. But most people think in their own bubble. But this could be something that affects all of our bubbles. And then, so there has been a huge thing. So first of all, we covered the story that said Basant said that after about 7 weeks, all of the stores are going to be out of their supplies. And that's 7 weeks of supplies they bought to get through this tariff area, right? So in 7 weeks of full stocked shelves left. After that, if we are not fixed with this whole China thing, everything from China is going to stop. Now, I'm going to put together a basic list for the next show of all of the things that, is related to this whole thing. But there's a lot of stuff that will slowly disappear if this never goes back to normal. They're talking about India, replacing China. China has a Make in India program that they want to get. They want, absolutely. They're begging the world to go to them instead of China. But the problem is India does not have the automotive manufacturing, textiles. There's a lot of things. Tech industry is not anywhere up to par where China is. China is set up with the best infrastructure in the entire world for manufacturing. And so right now, as current, there is no country, not even a set of multiple countries that can replace China. So if this is true, if this is how we're looking at it, we're amateurs, right? I'll leave it up to the experts, but even some of the experts have said this is crazy, crazy, unusually low. And now it's been politicized, so if all of the left media is saying, oh, look at what your president got you, now you're not going to have things on the shelves because you're president. Well, that makes people defensive on the other side, so they're saying, F you, I don't even care, I like empty shelves. I mean, I'm serious, I've seen some of the dumbest responses like, whatever, like, empty shelves mean more room for our cool hats. Like, stupid answers. I don't think you need to be on the left or right to be concerned about this. Dex, you found a good stat. Is it
Yeah, so grab the
debunk
top link.
or help
No.
these
It's
claims?
just it's part of the conversation. It's the top link and up next. And I need you to set it up. So let me know when you have it.
Okay, so I'm
The
putting
top
it.
link, the wiki. It's a wiki link. There's just a table of data in here that's important to look
Do
at.
I okay? Do I need to go to the table, the port country, and
Yeah, so go to the 2022 column, and I think you might have to click on it two times to sort it where the largest number. And the only reason we're using 2022 is the 2023 data is incomplete, so it
okay?
did not show everything. So if you sort by 2022, the largest, now this is what's important to think about. So this number, 47,303, these are TEUs. TEUs is a 20-foot section. Think of it as half of a tractor trailer. Everybody knows what a tractor trailer rig looks like going down the interstate. Half of that is a TEU. That's 20 feet. Two TEUs is 40 feet. That's the full container you see on the side of a ship. And a lot of times, most times those containers come off a ship, go onto a truck, go straight to Amazon, Walmart, Target, whoever, and they deal with containers at their warehouse facility and then distribute it off to other, trucks. But when you think that 47,000 TUs, it's really like 80,000, and that's I don't know if that figures in hundreds of thousands or not, but it doesn't matter. That's a huge number. But the main point to look at here, Adam, is when you look at the countries. Okay, so these are the largest ports by the 2022 numbers of the number of TEUs they ship out. It's China, Singapore, China, South Korea, China. Then you hit the United States of America, which is Los Angeles, which is our biggest port at like 19,044 TEUs against all of those China. So when you look at 24,000, 20,000, 22, 25, 30, 33, and even, by the way, Singapore is a huge hub that China uses anyway, so you could lump that one in, and 47, those numbers are massive. The amount of shipping and infrastructure. And when you think about it, you think about what does it take to bring all of that product to a ship? Like, what kind of roadways and infrastructure and trucking systems do they have to do that and manage that? That's not something that's built overnight. It's not something that's just done like, and I say keep scrolling down the list, Adam, till you get to like number 26, line 26 and line 27. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so line 26 and line 27, those are the two Indian ports. I mean, look at the numbers that India does. Okay, they couldn't come close to,
Oh my gosh, 5,000?
ever replacing what China has built for the last 20 years. Okay, so it's just I get it that that's what they want to do, that they want to get, and they will get more manufacturing. Like Apple moved a whole bunch of stuff there, and they're even paying to fly them out because they probably can't ship them out because there's just not enough shipping. But that's just another statistic to look at. Like, even if India tries to pick up the slack, there's no way they can fill those shoes. Those shoes are massive.
Yeah, this is obviously something that where even if they try for years, they're going to have to absolutely change. And this is who they're talking about replacing, along with Vietnam. So no, let me see here. I've got, and no, my power didn't go out. I talked about Bali. I should have never done that. They found me. I'll fix that here in a second. Actually, it's kind of cozy. Should I light a candle? I guess I could just turn up the... There we go. All right. I'll fix that here in a second. Just so you know, all of this stuff has been powered off of the Grid Down Buget XP for 3 weeks. So yeah, at least the lightings. Okay, so let's go into the map. So check this out. So this is what people are showing on TikTok. This is what is going around. Of course, there's been a lot of different videos. This is in Seattle and around Washington. You're not seeing much. When you zoom out, by the way, when people have shown, I saw one guy post a picture and said, "Look at all these ships. There's all sorts of ships." And when you zoom out, it looks like, gosh, look at this all around the U.S. Well, when you have the expensive one, this is the free one, okay? Most people are showing the free one. The when you pay the actual fee, you can actually show what their scheduled charter is. So like where they're headed and what part of the world they're headed. A lot of them are going from China. They're going across the way, and then they're going around us. They're going to Africa. They're going to Latin America. They're going to, of course, Peru or somewhere else. They're going to these big ports. When you zoom in here, you see all sorts of stuff. Well, that's with fishing ships, yachts, military, tugs, all of these other things, right? I saw one guy who very deceptively showed all of that and said, "Oh, it's fine," and said it's all, everything's great. But when you actually go to outside of LA, and the thing is, I'm not making an argument saying that the ports are empty or not. From what I have heard personally from my friends who have now both been down there, saying take the same road I've taken 10,000 times. If you go to West Seattle Bridge, if you go over out through the tunnel, by these places, you can see all of this. The actual places where normally containers are stored, they are all gone. They are empty. There are very few ships. And I believe that absolutely there's going to be less. If things aren't coming from China, if Timu's canceling, if all these different things are canceling, then of course you're going to have less ships. But this looks pretty dire, if you ask me. Now, these are all parked ones, I believe. BBC Venice, Harmonia. I mean, like, these are all here, right?
Is that San Francisco?
That's San Francisco. That's another port, right? And then
not as big.
LA.
LA's the big one, straight down.
Yeah.
You can compare it to Shanghai if you want to see like something really stark. Go down to the bottom by Mexico.
Look at
LA
Los
is.
Angeles. There's a lot of parked ships. The actual right here, right? You can see. So where this really got cool is when a gentleman used this and compared it to the last 4 years, and he had basically screenshots throughout time. And yeah, this is in comparison, a very stark comparison to what it was. I even believe on 5/1 of last year compared to this year, 5/2. And then there was a period that they compared it to during CV when the cargo ships were out in the bay, right? So these are extremely large cargo ships, each one carrying a lot, but this does not look like it's enough to support our whole country. And then most of these going up and down, they are actually on the route to go around. They are going around us. They're going past Mexico, or they're coming up past Mexico to go to China. There's different, exports going to China. And then you go over here, you go to China, and obviously they are banked up a little bit right now. You go over here, look at this. This is China.
If you go off the tip of Japan and go into that hub, right, you're almost there.
Let's see.
It's
right
directly east of Wuhan. So it looks like a giant bay. Just keep zooming in. You were almost there. I know I'm watching you delayed. I'm sorry. But that's the port of Shanghai. That's their biggest one. Yeah, you were there.
Right here. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's it right here. You can't even tell the difference. Look, this is zoomed in. So everything that is in the entire LA area is in this tiny zoomed in area right here. There's enough cargo ships right here. And then we zoom out. I mean, that's insane. And they're doing business with the rest of the world. These things are going everywhere. How many of them are coming to us? And we have 370-something million people in our country. That's a big deal. So again, I hope that people have their prep going. All right, let me fix this. Oh, no, everything's screwed up. All right. Well, either way, good timing. By the way, Stephen McMahon says, underlying fact, the owners of Earth want to kill 95% of us by 2050. And aren't 2/3 of us Americans supposed to perish this year? According to Deagle, according to many predictions by folks that have visions, I hope that is not true. But Deagle actually used real data. And that's what really creeped us out, is look at all of the things that are lining up this year, and we're now almost halfway through the year. So hopefully that does not happen, and I'm not hoping for that. But 2025 though has shown to be one of the most wild years ever. So, I mean, I would say 2019 and all of the stuff that happened afterwards, those were probably the wildest so far. But 2025, as far as wars go, it looks like everything is lining up. And if you look at what happened over the last 5 years, it makes complete sense with everything that's been going on. With the financial crisis of shutting down the world for 3 months, I knew back then, I said, this is going to cause problems and we're probably not going to see it for a couple of years. And now it's here. Many of the community have been seeing this coming for a long time, and now we're here. This is what a decoupling of China looks like. You know, they're talking to India now, but I don't think it's going to be anything close to what China could do. But again, I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll just have less cheap knockoff products. I mean, what stuff can we go completely without and be better without? I don't know.
You know, there's so many things, Adam. There's so many things that are made in America that aren't really made in America, right? Like, I mean, I'll use this as an example. Like, if you bought laundry detergent, I don't know where it's made, but let's just assume it's, it might be made in a plant somewhere here in America. The plastic bottle that it goes in isn't made here in America. Like, so what are you going to do? How are you going to produce that if you can't buy? And I'm sure they bought a whole bunch of it, last month, but at some point it runs out, right? And then the plastic bottle is not available anymore and you can't get them. And, and even if they are made here, they're made at a much greater cost and nowhere near the volume. So everybody will be clamoring for them. It was sort of like during the days of CV. You couldn't find plastic bottles to make, to fulfill the hand sanitizers back then. So, that's just one example, but that permeates across just about everything.
No, I absolutely agree. Sorry, I was fixing that. Okay, so we're back to some capacity. Here, I'll do this. I'll open. Okay, watch this. This is Jimmy Rig lighting, right? White screen. Just Google it, and then full screen it. There we go. Got some computer lighting. Maybe duplicate it. Duplicate. Give myself 3-point lighting over here. Put it on my other screen. Oh yeah, look at that. All right. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. Again, hopefully there is some very good things in our future. I really do hope that. And I'm praying for that. Thank your mods by, of course, go over and check them out on marfooglenews.com. You can find all of them there. Of course, you have a really, really great list of awesome people there. Of course, Ilea has been a great help. Bobby Sue, thank you so much. Jammer, thank you so much. Pray for Wages. Wages is having a rough time right now, but he has been covering all of the solar events. And then, of course, so many more. Go check them out, marfooglenews.com. All right, and then, make sure to go get the website has a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we have here before the panic. Watch this. And again, I would say this, before you go and panic buy, make sure that you're panic buying something that you need to panic buy. How many of you need a DVD player right now? I don't know. But again, like Dex said, there's a lot of items that we will need to look at that you might need to get if they do run out. A lot of plastic items that are manufactured and mass manufactured in China. A lot of these companies that do these things, they buy them super cheap from China, the containers. So we'll see how that affects things. But what is going to be the fix for that? Where do they go for that? How much are we going to start seeing come out of India? Could India catch up? But the way they're talking sounds like this is a permanent thing. And if we are decoupling from China, there are some things you should get, antibiotics, certain things that will come from there, and you should get them now before it's too late. But what is an emergency? We'll figure that out. All right, you guys, have a wonderful night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Let's see here. Thank you. Thank you, Rochelle Cooley. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Stephen McMahon. I appreciate your support. Thank you to all the new subscribers. April Fierce Family, GDG says, and I'm only one asked why 3 days like in the movies? Why not 2 or 4? Why? They want people to hate 3 days. Yeah, very good point. And then, is North Carolina Bound caught a live show? Been following since 2019, Marf. If it wasn't for you, my wife would have been stuck in Italy for a year. We are planning and prepared. Thanks, Marf, Dex, and whole Fugel family. Bound by Mountains, I would love for you to write an email about what happened with your wife and Italy. I would love to know what actually happened. So thank you. And again, thank you, Bound by Mountains, Stephen McMahon. And I believe Bound by Mountains, you are the top supporter tonight. Thank you, guys. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Make sure to go, of course, over to the website and check out the Marfoogle News short about Bali. That is over there as well. It's time for the shoutro.